Hi everyone, I'm Emma, this is Patrick, Rachel and Kai, and we are Team Pick. So when we were coming up with the idea, we decided we wanted to make something that solves a problem.
Have to mouse it.
The problem that we decided to tackle was how people manage their weekly shopping. So for example, if you've got 5 recipes that you want to cook throughout the week, it can be quite time consuming to plan all your ingredients and so that you can manage food waste and cost. And when you get to the supermarket, you forgot your list, you end up having to Google the recipes and going up and down the aisles to get all your ingredients. The current approaches to this are features built into websites, such as supermarket websites, where you can add the whole recipe to your basket, but they're not very smart. So if all of your ingredients need olive oil, you'll end up with like 5 bottles of olive oil in your basket that you don't need. So our approach to solving this problem was to create a smart app where the user can take a photo of the recipe or upload a recipe that they've found somewhere, and the app would then analyze the recipe and add all the ingredients to the shopping basket, and it would create like a really smart shopping basket with just 1 bottle of olive oil. The end goal would be to send this shopping basket to supermarkets for a price comparison, so that they can then purchase it. So I'll hand you over to Rachel, who will talk you through our demo.
Excellent. So let's give you a brief overview of the different ways you can use our app. In this case, we're going to say that our user has found a recipe of an apple pie that they'd really like to make, so we'll take a photo of that. We're going to log in as you, Mitch. I hope you don't mind. And then we're also going to upload a photo from a gallery. So there's a camera icon in the top corner, which opens the phone's camera. Now, it does take a bit of time for the photo to be processed once the picture's taken. What's actually happening in the background is the image is being converted into a base64 string, which is then sent to Google Vision's optical character recognition API, which physically extracts the text from the image, and then adds it to our nice recipe list for us. Now, my grandma's quite tech savvy, so what she's done is sent me her favorite recipe, which is stuffed zucchini. So I'm going to take the screenshot she sent me, find it in my gallery, and I'm going to add this to my recipe list as well. It goes through the same process, converted into a string, and sent to Google. Now with both recipes, or any recipe, you can add it to the basket, you can add multiple servings, and then tick off the recipes as you got them, the ingredients even. Now, I'll let you in a secret. My grandma is actually a really bad cook, so I think it's best that we don't make the zucchini at all. So I'm just going to delete it. We'll just remove it. We'll pretend it never happened. And then just for good measure as well, we'll log out. So I'm going to pass you over to Kai, and he's going to give you a bit of information on the front end of our app.
Thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to talk about the front end. We chose React Native to build the app because it's a framework that is using React. And we've learned React in the course, so I thought it would be easier to learn native as well. So they share the same syntax and the workflow, but not the navigation. I will come to the navigation later in the challenge. To make things easier, because it wasn't easy, we use EXPO. EXPO allows us to simulate Android and iOS device. Also, EXPO comes with a lot of libraries, such as EXPO camera or EXPO image picker. So we can take your photo from your screen or take your camera from your phone. And then the API. We've tested a lot of API for the text recognition. There's Amazon, Microsoft, and then Google. We found that Google was just the most accurate one. It recognizes about 90% of the text. And it's also free to a certain extent, which is great. So after we managed to get the text recognition working, we used Spwnacula to analyze the data. Spwnacula allows us to separate the title, the amount, the ingredient, and just renders it perfectly in the homepage. And also when we subscribe to it, they were really kind to send us some documentation. So thank you to them. And then now Rachel is going to talk about Backend.
Thank you, Kai. So our backend is a RESTful API built on an Express server using a Mongo database and Mongoose. And we did take a bit of time right at the beginning of our project trying to decide what kind of database we were going to use, Mongo or something like SQL. We settled on Mongo in the end for a few reasons. One was that it's really easy to put together a database quite quickly. We saw it recommended for things like 2-week sprints and also for hackathons. It's easily scalable, so if our app did take off, we could quite easily make it bigger. And it's also very flexible. We didn't have a very firm idea of what our data was going to look like right at the beginning. So, we found while we were building the front end, we'd have to go in, change the schema, add in extra fields. So having the ability to go in and make those changes without rebuilding anything was a great help. All of the endpoints in our API were fully tested using Chai, Mocha, and Supertest. The API itself is hosted on Heroku, with the database being hosted on MLab. But if we think of how our app works as a whole, if, say, for example, we have when the user takes a photo, say that's converted into a string and sent to the Google API, we actually had a couple of choices there. You can send it a string, or you can send a URL to an uploaded photo. But the process of actually analyzing the text is itself quite slow. So to save the user time and to save having to upload something, we decided to go with sending the base 64 string. Once we've got that extracted text, it's passed through another API provided by Spoonacular. And what that does is goes through each ingredient and provides us with a lot of metadata that we can then use to build extra functions and features for our user. Once the app has all that information, it passes it back to our API where it's added to the database, all ready for future use. But what I'll do now is pass you on to Patrick, Kai, sorry, who's going to tell you some of the challenges that we faced.
Okay, so the first challenge we faced was React Native. React Native wasn't as mature as React. The documentation was quite basic. So, for example, we have to look into Stack Overflow quite a few times to understand the navigation. It didn't give us a lot of examples to correctly code the navigation because, for example, in React, you put all the route in the app, whereas in native, you code the button nav, the header, and then all the other routes, and then you can only run the one navigator at a time. But we still managed to fix it. And then the second challenge was iOS and Androids. We chose to stick with iOS, even though React Native can be developed on both devices. Because my laptop can only simulate one device at a time, we thought it was easier to track the code, to debug, to do some tests. And also because we only have 2 weeks, and Android renders some of the stuff differently. And finally is the API call. We start to make the API call with Axios, but for some reason Axios wasn't working. So we decided to switch to Frisbee. Frisbee is a little bit like Axios, but it's fully optimized for React Native. And that's it for the challenge. Now Patrick is going to talk about
teamwork.
Yes.
Makes the dream work. Okay, so yeah, I've worked with a great group of people, and I think we can all agree that we produced an amazing app. So I'd like a massive round of applause for the app produced. Thank you. So we worked in an agile environment. We utilised pair programming. Me and Kai paired up to work on the front end, and Emma and Rachel worked on the back end. And because it was quite a front end heavy project, Emma and Rachel jumped on and helped us with it later as we went along. So every morning we did daily stand-ups. We planned and set out everything that we had to do throughout the day, and then if need be, we'll have some in the afternoon to make sure that the targets are being hit and everything's going to plan. We also utilised GitHub, Slack, and Trello, and Emma loved Trello so much that she set up her own board for her family so she can keep them all in check. So, on to the improvements. So, because we were so new to React Native and we didn't really know how it would work, and we didn't really make a good plan, which is really bad saying that now. But so later down the line, when it came to like passing things down the props and using different components, it got a bit tricky because we didn't know where things were going. But as you've seen, we got through that and it all worked out well. So yeah, Git branches, we didn't really, so yeah, we should have pulled from the dev and merged, but it took us a few days to get our head around how it would work, because we never really used Git as a team. We only really used it like as individuals or as pairs. So it took a bit of time to like get that nailed down. And then also our minimal viable product was ridiculous. Like we had so many good ideas to implement on this app, and as you'll see from the next slide, all of them. And so we just had to cut everything and just like Kai said, getting the navigation down took like days because it was so hard, because we had the top nav and the bottom nav, and getting them working together was just a nightmare. But yes, future developments, you know, like if you take a picture and it's in grams, convert it into ounces or cups, you know, food tracking, making sure, you know, everything in your house is kept track of, so you know, like to reduce waste, and then nutritional value of the recipe or the single ingredient. Take a picture of the recipe, get a bottle of wine, happy days. Link to a supermarket, Amazon pantry, React app, so you don't have to just use your phone, you can just use it on your computer, and then Scranner coin, monetize it, ICO, world's our oyster. Thank you.